Hello, good evening, and welcome to our front. Tonight, we delve into the experiences of a Belgian TV star, model, and new force spokesperson who faced arrest and charges for alleged falsification of documents related to her Ghana resident permit. She found herself entangled in the harrowing ordeal that included what she calls unjust treatment, denial of rights, and a series of disturbing incidents during her time in custody. Thus, this conversation aims to explore the details from her arrest to detention through to when she was finally repatriated. Shalimar Abbiusi, you're welcome to our front.
Hi, good evening.
I hope you are doing well this evening.
I'm doing excellent, thank you.
So you are in Belgium, right? That's the last we heard from you.
Yes, I'm in Belgium.
Oh, that's interesting. And of course, I want us to start from this basis. Walk us through the events leading to your arrest and the specific charges that were brought against you here in Ghana.
Yes, so after doing the video for the new force, keep in mind I've been active in Ghana in the media space, not just in Ghana, but been active in the media space for some time, been traveling back and forth, been involved in charity work and humanitarian work in Ghana for some time. And after the video came out with me as the spokesperson for the new force, I got a call from immigration to come to their headquarters for some questions. So I went willingly. I went when they invited me. A couple days after I went, they started to ask me all kinds of questions about my resident permit, which, keep in mind, I've been traveling with back and forth for years. It's been recently extended by another immigration officer. It was obtained through an official immigration officer, and I never had any problems with it. So they started to question me about the permit. They asked me about certain documents that I have never seen before, and they asked me questions about the new force. So I was very confused why I was there. And then eventually, after some hours of questioning, they told me I had to stay there overnight. So I stayed in the cell overnight at immigration, and the things that I've seen there were just, I don't have words for it. It was very shocking. There were so many people there. I think more than 15 people from all different nationalities, Africans, Arabs, Asian people, and it was shocking to see that some of them were already there for 9 months without hearing, without lawyer, without anything, and in just inhumane circumstances. Keep in mind, it was men and women together in the same cell. Some of them, they didn't even have the chance to make a phone call. They were stuck there for months, nobody to call, no lawyer, no counsel, sharing mattresses with each other. Like, it was just, it was baffling, the things that I've seen there. Then the next morning, I was being transferred to NIV. I didn't know where I was going. They just took me out of the cell. Then they transferred me somewhere. I didn't know where I was going, so I was just being pushed in a van, and they took me somewhere after I found out I was at NIV. And that is where they told me I'm under arrest. I still didn't know what exactly for at that moment because there were no official charges. So yeah, that's how it went.
Now, let's get this appreciation, because most of us got to know, that you had been arrested and kept in jail for 4 days. We will come to that. But let people understand, because we have seen you in the media space. We have seen you appear on what they call TV networks, participate in conversations. We have seen you not direct traffic, but help people actually at the traffic sections. We have particularly seen you go to Mepe to go and do donation. How did a Belgian woman wake up one morning and decide that Ghana was where I wanted to go to do all of these things?
Well, I actually didn't just wake up and go to Ghana one day. I represented my country for many years as an international beauty queen for Belgium. So Ghana was one of the places where I represented Belgium as Miss Belgium at that time. So that was in like 2017. That was the first time I went to Ghana. And I just connected really well with the people. I had a great time. I was, it was just great. It was a great experience. And I was like, you know what, I like Ghana, but I've always been involved in humanitarian work and charity work. As an international beauty queen, that's one of the things that you have to involve yourself in. Having a heart for humanity is, what you're supposed to stand for as well.
Okay, no, I mean, that puts it into proper perspective. For some of us who did not know why you, of all the countries available in the world, chose to come to Ghana to do this. So now let's talk about what is the biggest accusation that was leveled against you. Specifically, in court, you were charged with, in fact, accused of violating Section 52(1)(I) of the Immigration Act 2000. That's Act 573. And they stated specifically obtaining for yourself a student permit by false declaration.
The charges were actually that I forged national intelligence. Is somebody really supposed to be kept at national intelligence if it's a problem with your permit? I think it was very clear that it was about the new force, which was also mentioned in the charges, that I was there because they wanted to investigate my activities in relationship to the new force. So there was no evidence. There never was any evidence presented. They did a house search. They had access. They had my phone in their custody. There was nothing to prove that I forged documents to obtain a permit. I obtained the permit through an official immigration officer, as I mentioned before, and I don't know too much about the whole legal aspect. I think that is something for my lawyer, Mr. Sosu, can answer those questions better. But there was never any evidence presented, and especially if you know that they dropped all charges eventually, then we can ask questions on how true the allegations are.
Now, I get this consistently because the people will say, I mean, why would you be interested in forging and acquiring a resident permit by forgery means to stay in Ghana? Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, that is the accusation, that you cannot be purporting to do good when all that you are doing is premised on a very false and fictitious entry.
I understand what you're saying, but there was no evidence. So I pleaded not guilty. All charges were dropped. There was no evidence ever presented in court. So I think we can conclude that it just wasn't true, especially when they brought into my charges that it was about the new force. And if there really was something wrong with my permit, how was I able to travel all these years back and forth, going through immigration checkpoints, even extending my residence permit for the second time by an official immigration officer? I'll leave that up to the people to decide, but I think everybody with common sense can see that it's a bigger picture here.
Now, let me get this clear. Were you attempting to school, or were you ever in school in any public university in Ghana?
I was still deciding on taking courses. I was still deciding, but I was told that with my resident permit, I also could go to school. So I just went through an official immigration officer. He told me to do ABC. I gave him my passport. I paid what I was supposed to pay, and I got a resident permit just to I could work with it, I could travel with it, I could go to school with it, or do whatever I wanted in the country. So I never forged any documents. I never had to do any such thing to obtain a resident permit. Somebody who's been traveling to so many countries, why would I forge documents to obtain a resident permit? That doesn't make sense.
The other question, though, is why would you really want a resident permit in Ghana?
Why not? I've been staying there for some few years, and I was based most of my time in Ghana. I was involved in a lot of humanitarian work, charity work, built a network there. I was involved in media projects. I have a network of friends. So why not?
I mean, were you intending to stay permanently in Ghana?
I was spending most of my time in Ghana because I had some things going on, and well, maybe one day I would naturalize, or I don't know. I leave that open. But my love for Ghana, I think I've always shown great love for the country, and I think I contributed to society in a very positive way throughout my time in Ghana.
Now, what were the conditions like during your time in custody, and especially concerning the lack of, so you had mentioned you were transported. At what point were you officially given access to counsel or probably put before court? How many days were you in detention before you were officially taken to court?
So after 48 hours, the 48-hour benchmark was approaching, and I still didn't get to see my charges officially. So after 48 hours, the people from immigration, they secretly took me away. My counsel was present at NIB at that time, but I didn't get the chance to have a confidential conversation with him because they always tried to deny me access to my counsel. I wasn't granted any phone calls. I was completely out of touch with everything and everybody. So when the 48 benchmark approached, my lawyer was present at NIB. They took him into a room and they took me away. At that point, they pushed me in a van and they took, or in a car, and they took me somewhere. I didn't know where I was going, so I kept asking, "Where am I going? What's going on? Where am I going? Why can I not speak to my lawyer?" And nobody was telling me anything. And then I saw we arrived at court, and I was like, my lawyer should be aware, like you should make him aware, or you should call him or let him know that I'm here, but they refused. They just ignored me. They weren't listening to me. They were lying to me that they were just going to file some documentation at court, and eventually they wanted to put me on the stand, take my plea, and potentially let me incriminate myself. I had a counsel, I had a lawyer, and they refused to give me access to him. They refused to call him. They refused to let him know where I was at that point. So that was very inhumane. So at that point, I told the judge, I spoke up for myself. I had to speak up for myself, and I told the judge that I do have a counsel and I want my lawyer to be present. The judge was very disappointed in the prosecution, and she told them I needed to make if I want to make phone calls, they have to let me make phone calls, but they never even granted my phone calls until 2 days after, and that means that I would have to come back the next day, so I would have to stay another night in the cell. So that is already, those are already a series of violations of human rights, that they deny you access to your counsel, no official charges, crossing the 48-hour benchmark, intentionally keeping me away in court from my lawyer, not granting me phone calls. Like they tried to do a search without a warrant. Like all of these things are just straight up violations.
And was this conduct by immigration officials or officials at the NIB?
They were working together.
Were you transported from the NIB to the court, or from the immigration service to the court? Where did you leave to the court for the first time?
I only stayed at immigration for one night. Then I was transferred to NIB, where I was being overprotected, and my case became a national emergency. So from that point, NIB worked very closely with immigration.
Okay, now that's an interesting point. At NIB, and I know what the kind of questions you were asked at immigration is known. At NIB, what kind of interrogation were you subjected to?
There was an interrogation, I believe, after 4 days. I believe it was after 4 or 5 days of my arrest. And they didn't like the fact that I wanted my counsel to be present. I actually just ended up writing a statement because they kept intimidating me that, my lawyer could not speak, and why am I being difficult? Why am I making things difficult by wanting my lawyer present? And when they were asking certain questions and my lawyer wanted to interject, they got very upset. They kept intimidating me. They've been intimidating me also during the house search. Like, it was just, they just kept intimidating me, and they thought I didn't know my rights.
So intimidation is a big word. What exactly were they doing that to you constituted intimidation?
So intimidation is not a big word here. If you look at the whole thing, everything that happened, the whole case, me being intentionally swept away from my lawyer, yelling at me during house searches, trying to intimidate me by saying this will work against me if I want my lawyer present, like trying to keep me away from my lawyer in court intentionally. That is intimidation.
Okay. I just wanted a detail of what the intimidation constituted. What constituted the intimidation in the first place? I'm happy that you gave clarity to it. Now, from the day you were invited till it was converted into arrest, when was the first time you had legal representation?
The third day, because I had to come back after the 48-hour benchmark. I had to stay another night, and then my lawyer was present the next day. But it was even very hard to get to get that confidentiality, like that confidential conversation that you normally have with your counsel prior to a hearing. It was very hard to even get that. So that was the first time I also heard my charges officially, and it was mentioned on the one hand, they claimed I forged documents. On the other hand, they actually said they were interested in the new force.
Now, I'll come to that. Let's talk about living conditions in the days you spent first at the immigration's own hold-up. How was the place like?
It was horrible. It was just a bunker, men and women combined. Like I said, there were so many.
Oh, the men and women were together at the same place?
Yeah, we were together at the same place. There were people stuck there for 9 months. I felt at that point, I felt really bad because I knew there were people on the outside fighting for me, and I knew I had counsel and all of those things, but those people didn't have anybody. There was a lady that I shared a mattress with. She was Asian. She was from Vietnam, I believe, and she was there for over a month already, and she said, I don't know who to call. I don't know what to do. Her English wasn't so good, so it just made me, it really opened my eyes. It was shocking to see those things happening. Like, it was just baffling. People sharing mattresses, stuck there for 9 months without any legal representation, no court case. Like, it was just inhumane.
What were the sanitary conditions there?
There was a shower that was not functioning very well, and there were like buckets of water, like a small piece of soap to wash yourself. It wasn't the best.
And this was shared by all of you, or you had separate bathrooms for men and women?
I was only there for one night, so I don't know if the men had a different shower or toilet. I do not recall that, but it was from what I've seen, because I was sitting in a corner, and it's not like I was walking around the cell, so I was just sitting in my corner. I could only see one washroom and one shower.
What were you sleeping on anyway?
A thin mattress.
Okay, well, and everybody had their own?
No, I was sharing a mattress with another lady.
Okay, no, I mean, I want you to now to compare those conditions, right, to what you went through, or the conditions at the NIB place, yeah.
At that point, because you are being overprotected, and it's like you're a national emergency, so it feels like you're being treated like a terrorist almost at maximum security, and everything has to be followed by protocols. And So it was very scary. Like the first time I saw the cell, I thought this has to be a movie. Where did I end up here? It was just a dark bunker, no windows or daylight. When they closed the door, I felt so anxious because I knew like I'm really locked up here. There was one other lady in the cell with me. The smell was unbearable. I don't know how to describe it, but it was unbearable. There was a stash of mattresses, like dirty mattresses that I could pick one from to sleep on. The walls were very dirty. Everything was very dirty. There was like a small piece of soap to wash yourself, no towel to dry yourself. All we got was like a small face towel for the whole time being there. No change of clothes, no change of underwear. There was nothing. There was nothing in that. It was very, like your whole humanity is just being stripped away from you, and all you have at that point is the core of who you are and your mind. I can't imagine what that lady must be going through sitting there by herself. Or she was there for 4 months already, and I just felt so bad at that point. Like it was terrifying.
How many months days really, did you spend at the NIB's end?
So my first night was at immigration, then 6 days until Sunday, until the next Monday. Actually, a full week at NIB. And then before my deportation, they also kept me a whole day at NIB.
Now, how about treatment from the people? You talked about intimidation and the other things. Were there people who were not part of the people intimidating you? Were there individuals who were perhaps nicer to you and treated you, if you want to call it professionals there, or if you want to call it in a humane manner? Were there people like that too there?
Absolutely. And those people know who they are. Like, I thank them for their humanity. And there definitely were some people who made it a little bit more bearable. People who did treat me with respect, because the things, especially the people at immigration, like the way they tried to take things from me in a forceful way. They tried to take my necklace forcefully. There were like 5 people like pulling me just to take my necklace off of my neck and things like that. It was very frightening, and if you're not a strong person, I can definitely believe that you would break in those moments. Like they keep yelling at you, pushing you, pulling you, and but there definitely were some people, and so I even remember one officer asking me, like, I'm sure you hate everybody here now, and you hate immigration and Ghana. I'm like, no, I don't, because I still see that certain people are showing humanity and they're showing kindness even in terrible situations. So I definitely don't hate anybody, and but the conditions at most of the time was just very inhuman. And all I kept saying, like, why are you guys acting like this? I'm a human. I haven't been convicted, and even if somebody convicts you or you committed a crime, even if, then you are still a human with human rights and basic human needs, and you should be treated with certain respect. You don't just yell people and deny them counsel, deny them phone calls, just lock them up like an animal, push them, pull them. You don't treat people like that, because maybe tomorrow we can meet somewhere outside and I can still look you in the face and say hi to you. We're still human,
You set out to an African country with, many will believe, noble intentions. Mm-hmm. How the development moved from somebody who's partly directing traffic, doing donations in Mepe, to becoming somehow somebody who's locked up. And in some conditions you have just expressed. When you sit back and reflect, how does that make you feel, that this was not a worthwhile pursuit and that was a complete mistake coming to the Republic of Ghana?
No, I don't see it that way at all. I'm actually very grateful for the experience that I've been through. Even if it was horrible, I do see the positive in it. And I think if I wasn't exposed to the things I've been through, I would never realize how bad the situation really is. And I feel rather inspired to be a voice of the voiceless who are going through similar situations. Because the truth of the matter is, if it wasn't for me being a public figure or being European, like, nobody would care. And there are so many people stuck in there, and people who went through similar situations and who had their human rights violated, but no one listens to them. So I rather feel inspired by being a voice for them. And I do hope to create a positive change in that aspect. So I don't think me coming to Ghana and doing what I did was a mistake. I mean, that video that I put out for the new force, it changed my life completely, but I would do it again.
I'll come to that in a second. I mean, many will say these are the conditions that people have lived in for God knows how long. You referenced some of them, right? And that this is what we have here in the Republic of Ghana. So, I mean, you just had to make do with what we had as the conditions here. The fact that you might not have been used to that doesn't mean that it is that abhorrent. The thinking here is, was it necessarily because of your experience, or you feel there is real change that ought to happen in the places you were kept and how you were treated, and how others might possibly been treated too?
Yeah, I do think we need change in those aspects. Like you said, there are so many people who've been going through these conditions for years and years. And of course we know, but once you're being exposed to it and when you're in the same position, that is only when you can really understand and really feel the pain of those people. And, you know, if it takes that for me to share the story with the world and let the world know what is really going on and create a positive impact, I would love to do, then I'm very happy to do that. I do think like we should respect human rights. I'm not saying this is just in Ghana, this is just the case in Ghana or in Africa. I know there are so many places in the world.
Okay, now, I seem to have had a brief interruption with that. If you just joined us, this is Upfront. I'm talking to the spokesperson of the new force, that video that many of you saw on social media, her arrest, her detention, and the subsequent repatriation. We have been talking about the arrest, detention, and conditions. I'm sure if we're able to reconnect after this break, we should be able to explore the detention and how she got in connection with this new force movement or whichever grouping that's purporting or paraded itself as such. After this break.
Every day, people have money emergencies. Ma, I need my school fees emergency. Mommy chop money emergency. Emergency. Catch it. I'm your rent emergency. Now, there's a new emergency number in town.
More money, challenge and enjoyment. At the top life we got.
Dial star 770 hash for all your money emergencies and chop life.
Dial star 770 hash for money emergencies and get easy and quick access to your money, loans, and other banking needs. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Welcome back to Upfront. My name is Raymond Akwa. My guest tonight, Shalimar Abbiusi, who is a Belgian TV star, a model, and you sure know by now that she is the spokesperson of the new force, and many would want to add at large, because clearly she's not in the Republic of Ghana. They repatriated her a couple of weeks ago, and she's joining us from Belgium, where this conversation is happening. We're exploring, more importantly, her experience, because she put out something on social media talking about how terrible those conditions she suffered in custody and also before her repatriation was supposed to happen. You welcome back. We lost you briefly, but we're happy to have you back. Now, I can explore. So at what point were you told that we have taken a decision to no longer prosecute you for breaching rules and laws connecting to immigration, but rather repatriate you to your country? Well, I think there's a problem with your, if you could, yes. Brilliant. Now I can hear you. That's perfect.
Yeah, so I was granted bail, and then after a week, I had to appear in court again. So we were going to get into the legal matter of things, so to speak. And at that point, the prosecution decided to drop all charges. And my counsel, Mr. Sosu, he even mentioned in court, I hope it's not to circumvent the law that we are dropping all charges here, because we were ready to, go into the legal matter of things. Since there was no evidence was never presented. So when we got outside of court, there were, I don't know how many, I think like 10 or 15 immigration officers ready to, rearrest me. And somebody from immigration said, "Oh, congratulations on your charges being dropped, but we revoked your residence permit and you are an illegal immigrant right now, so you're under arrest, you have to come with us." And at that point, just hell broke loose, because normally you're supposed to present a letter of revocation or a deportation order in court, so you can fight it. We even filed an injunction before the courts to, fight unlawful deportation. And they never gave us the chance to even battle it in court. They just took me away in a forceful and violent way. There is a lot of footage about that circulating, where they just pushed me and pulled me into a van. And it was just horrible. I was kept all day at NIB. I didn't know what was going on, because I was like, guys, if you're going to deport me, or at least let me know what's going on. So I didn't know. There was no official deportation order. There was no official letter that said my permit was been revoked. I believe Honorable Susu also said normally there should be evidence or proof that the national security, like they are going to deport you because of security reasons or whatsoever. There was nothing like that. So I was just being kept all day again at NIB, and I just kept asking, what is going on, guys? Just tell me what is going on. And nobody told me until in the evening. I was just being taken to the airport. And I never got the chance to call anybody, to let anybody know. I believe Mr. Sosu at that point was filing an injunction to fight the unlawful deportation, and we never got the chance to fight it, So I was just being taken to the airport. And I never got my phone until I was being dropped on the plane. I kept asking, please, can I make a phone call? If you guys are sending me away, can I at least pack my stuff? I didn't have anything on me, no ID cards, no money, not even my house key, nothing. And I just felt like it was very inhuman, and I just kept asking, please, can I just contact somebody that, somebody can pick me up or get me my stuff to the airport, at least so I have something to go home with. And it was, to me, it was just unbelievable, because, you want me to just step on the plane like with nothing, like, you don't even want to give me my phone to make a call. How? It's just very, very inhuman, I would say.
Was any item that you gave to the police or the immigration officers or the NIB taken permanently away from you, or you got everything back from them?
I got everything back. My phone was the last thing they kept from me, and I only got that back on the plane.
Now, you talked about having your phone taken from you and your house being searched early on. How was this done? And did they find anything incriminating to use against you or discuss with you?
They didn't find anything. There was no such thing as nothing incriminating was found. The first time they wanted to conduct the search at my house, they wanted to do it without a warrant, which is unlawful. And the second time, so the next day we went back, they had a warrant, but they didn't wait for an independent witness from my end, and they didn't wait for my lawyer to come to witness the search, which is also wrong. And, you know, the officers were just yelling at me. They were intimidating me. They were trying to scare me, saying if I didn't let them go to my house or I didn't give them access, this would work against me. I was wasting their time. And, you know, it was just very disrespectful, the whole search. The ladies who did the search, they trashed my house. They just threw my bags on the floor, like beauty products, like cream and stuff. They just threw it. They just opened it. It was just, you know, they were just trying to be rude, I guess. They were just trying to.
Did they tell you what they were looking for? Did they tell you? I
asked them. I was like, what are you guys looking for? And they didn't want to answer me until later on. The inspector said, we're looking for something that you forged documents with. And I was just like, guys, my beauty creams and stuff, if that's what you're looking for, then why are you trashing the place?
Now, you mentioned that there was reference to your activity and the video in connection with a New Force. Let's track the New Force engagement from the beginning. When coming to Ghana, at what point in time did you come into contact with the people behind the New Force and become a voice for the New Force?
It was after my donation at MEPE to help relieve the victims of the Akosombo Dam spillage. And I just, I'm interested in everything that has to do with humanity and humanitarian work. So when I heard about the agenda of the New Force, I could not support, because it was so good, and the development of the country, the empowerment of the youth, those are all amazing things. And I was like, if I can be part of this, I would love to,
If I can press you further on that, you went to MEPE before you had contact with the New Force.
Yes.
So the New Force did not sponsor your donation to MEPE?
No, of course not.
You were not an agent of the New Force in MEPE in the first place, seeking to exploit the good deeds you could do there to the benefit of the New Force.
No.
Okay, no, I get it. So you went to them, or they came to you after this donation?
We met, and we just had conversation about the New Force, and then they told me it was hard getting a spokesperson, or and I just volunteered. I was like, what, is there any way that I can help this good cause? And at that point, they said, yeah, you can be the spokesperson, because I already was doing similar things like presenting programs or things like that. So I was like, why not? I would love to, help in a cause that is so positive.
Now, did they tell you that it was a political movement with Nana Kwame Bediako at its head, seeking, among other things, to be the leader of this country? Is that what they told you?
I think that is not really important. I think what is more important is the agenda and the fact that what the New Force stands for. And also, what I want to mention is I don't think a spokesperson is a political person. I am delivering a message. I am reporting on behalf. I am not a politician. I don't see myself as a politician. And I was actually surprised that me being the spokesperson, that I was being mistaken as a politician all of a sudden.
But
that was
mindful of the fact that this was a mask, and you were the first face, the first voice that had been put to this mask and the group related to it. Were they wrong? Was anybody wrong in perceiving that this is a foreigner seeking, among other things, to interfere in the Ghanaian political space?
I never said anything like I want to be part of the government or anything that points to me being a political person. There was never anything said like that. All I did was deliver a message. And the truth of the matter is they didn't even give anybody the chance to elaborate, because right after the video came out, they arrested me. So how do you want people to make their intentions clear if you don't even give us the chance to do so?
Now, today I understand that Nana Kwame Bediako has been saying that you were not spokesperson appointed and crowned so in the understanding we have of political spokespersons. Is that true? Mm-hmm. Yes,
that is true. I don't see myself as a politician at all. I see myself as a spokesperson and somebody with a heart for humanity. But I think if we look at the whole situation, the video was so powerful and the words I spoke were so powerful that it uprooted the nation. And I think if they would have even let us communicate the agenda or even let us do the unveiling, things would have been a little bit different, because people were coming to conclusions, and I think I was just I was just being used as a scapegoat by the government.
Now, you put up on social media, I never thought that being a spokesperson for the New Force GH, a movement that empowers the youth, promotes the growth, change, and development of not just Ghana, but the continent of Africa, would end up in the case of violation of my human rights. I mean, from all indications, we see this as another political group in Ghana. Did you get the same impression, or you thought this was a continental movement?
Well, if you look at the convention that they wanted to hold, I think we can look at it as something bigger than just in Ghana. It is bigger than just Ghana. The convention, I'm sure you are aware, like there were 4 powerful speakers there and four visionaries who came to speak at the convention, but unfortunately it got canceled by the government. So I do think we can look at it as something bigger. It's not just about Ghana. It starts in Ghana, but it's also about Africa and the improvement and development and growth.
Now, I get that. There's a question that's on the minds of many. So what exactly is it about Nana Kwame Bediako, or Cheddar, as I understand he's mostly called, that makes you convinced that any movement he commences is worth supporting by people of your ilk, standard, and timbre?
Well, I think if you listen to what he has to say and his vision, I think you can not support. His intentions is the growth of Ghana, not just Ghana, but also Africa, and to empower the youth. And I think that is very important, because the future is with the youth. And, him standing up for that, and it's so bold and courageous what he's doing. And that is why there's so much pushback, because it's so revolutionary. And I think that deserves all support.
Some think it's just grandstanding. I mean, they have a local term for it, settings. Some think it's just, what they call it, some mere representation of a sort, and that is just a ruse of a kind. You have close contact, or perhaps understood this new force idea, perhaps more than many of us. Do you also come to the conclusion, or do you, after all that has happened to you?
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision?
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
Get a glimpse understanding that this is just mere grandstanding or a ruse, or if you like, the young people's term, settings.
That's a very good question. Thank you for asking that question. Well, I think if we can look at his track record, he's been doing so much for not just Ghana, but for humanity. So if you really are doubting someone's intention, look at the track record. He's been doing so many good things. And I think the new force, what we have shown in such a short time, I do think the nation needs change, and a lot of people are asking for change. And if there's one person right up for the task, I think it's him.
You are convinced that if Ghana needs change, it is the very gentleman we are talking about?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And many would make it clear that you met the man not long ago.
Yes, we met during a follow-up donation at Mepe.
And that was enough time for you to be convinced that he is Ghana's savior.
Well, I think anybody with discernment can see if people are genuine or not. And like I said, if you look at the track record and all the initiatives that he's been doing throughout the years to help the people, empower the youth, and help Ghana grow, not just Ghana, but the nation, like Africa in general, and the vision that he has, I think you cannot deny that he is somebody with a heart for humanity.
So did you do any checks at all about him? I mean, it would be reasonable to expect that if you want to hitch your connections to anybody, it would make sense for you to at least be in the position to investigate his background a little bit. Did you do any checks about him?
Of course. I mean, he's a public figure as well. It's not because we recently met that, I never heard about him or wasn't aware of what he was doing in the country and outside of the nation, all the good things that he's doing, that he did in Turkey. So I think the question here is more like, is it about the person or is it about the motives,
Okay.
I think we should look at the agenda and the empowerment of the youth. I think that is very important, and he is somebody who really stands for empowerment of the youth. And I do think a nation like Ghana, where the youth is rapidly growing, they need a voice, and they need somebody to stand up for them. There are so many people between the age of 17 and 19, I believe, who are going to vote for the first time in the upcoming elections. And I feel like he is a good representative for what the youth wants and needs. Because if we look at what is going on in the country, there is not really somebody who can relate to the youth and who speaks to the youth.
And by this, what you really mean is the videos he's been putting out, the very things that has been said in times past from his end. But does it give you the impression that he has policies, he has a retinue of them which will address the current situation we have on our hands? For example, what does he think about finances and how it's being run? What does he think about education in the Republic of Ghana? How about social services? How about the elements of governance that are completely relevant and beyond the social media engagements? The things that can bog you down and get you to real governance, are you convinced that he has what it takes to deliver on those ends?
I am convinced, and I'm also very certain that when we give him the platform to speak on those things, that other people will be convinced as well. But the truth of the matter is, the actions that have been taken in the past weeks, like canceling the convention, my deportation, I think those actions prevented us from even speaking up on those things that you just mentioned. And I think once the platform is given and people are willing to listen, I'm sure people will be convinced about those points as well.
Have you given up on Ghana? Never coming back?
I have not given up on Ghana. I feel like my work is not done yet. Like I said, I felt really inspired by everything that I've seen and I've been through. I still have a lot of love for Ghana. I've been staying there for some years, It's still a place that I hold very dear to my heart. And, I'm sure I'll be back eventually.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, have you stopped all attempts to fight this deportation order, or you are still on it?
We are still on it, and in the right time, we will reveal what is the next step. But yeah, I definitely want to put out my version of the story and, get justice, hopefully.
You launched something on social media, #IamHuman. I mean, yes. Beyond telling your story, exactly what else is that supposed to communicate?
Well, I created that hashtag because the circumstances, the violation of my human rights, the injustice, it was a clear signal to the community that I want to send, like, I am a human. Even me who didn't commit a crime or who has not been convicted, and I've been treated in such a way. People who do commit crimes, they also are humans, and they also have human rights and basic human needs that we should respect. And that was all I kept saying during my incarceration and my time at NIB and immigration. I kept saying when they were being forceful, when they were intimidating me, I kept saying, I am a human. Treat me like a human, not like an animal. And I think that is a very powerful message that I want to put out there. And I want to be a voice for the people whose rights have been taken away from them or who are not being respected. So with I Am Human, I do want to create a positive movement and a positive change to bring awareness, and not just in Ghana or Africa, but globally, to respect human rights no matter what.
There's a question about whether you were unwillingly lured into a movement that has plans of destabilization or threatening the very state of Ghana, and you unwittingly joined this movement, not mindful of the grander vision to cause harm to the state of this republic. When you hear those things, how do you feel about it?
I think some people, I don't want to say everybody, but I do think there's two camps. Like one side of the country is so ready for change, and on the other hand, people are still very scared of change because they don't know what that change is or what is that going to do. So I do understand that people are a little bit afraid of change, but it's also so needed. It's very needed, and choosing for that change and choosing for a better Ghana, it takes courage. It takes courage. So I think people shouldn't be afraid. They rather should embrace change. And if we really want a better Ghana, better Africa, better life, then we shouldn't be timid. We shouldn't be afraid to speak up that we want that change.
Now, finally, your parents, there's a video of them being visibly worried about your incarceration and all of that now. Have they had a word with you about abandoning any form of association with the Republic of Ghana? What do they think now?
They still love Ghana. They came to visit me, and unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, they were there when this happened. I think it's very normal for parents to be very worried when they see this. I didn't want to worry them the first day, so I didn't tell them. So it was only after a couple of days they came to find out what happened. They're a little bit worried about, me continuing to be the spokesperson. I do understand that, but everybody is back home, and it was a terrifying experience, but I also learned a lot, and I do want to turn this into something positive rather than being a victim.
Message to the government of the Republic of Ghana on conditions, how you found your treatment, and final words on that.
I do think we need change in the aspect of human rights and the system when it comes to not just immigration, but the whole system. If we look at how a whole legal system can be overruled by the decision and the voice of one person, I want to ask the question if we really live in a democracy then. And I do think if Ghana wants to stand for democracy, then those things have to change. There has to be separation of powers. And, the law has to be respected. The the law was just overruled by one person, which just raises questions for me in terms of, are we really living in a democracy? So I think we should change a couple things when it comes to giving people fair trial. All the people that were stuck at immigration, I don't think that is respectful, and it's a violation of human rights. The lady who was stuck for 4 months at NIB, now going into 5 months without counsel, without anything, we really need to change that.
How much were you paid as spokesperson? How much are you still being paid?
I'm volunteering.
Oh, I see. That's a lot of work to go through for volunteering. Many thanks to you for joining us tonight. My guest has been Shalimar Abbiusi. She is a Belgian TV star, a model, and the spokesperson of the New Force. And many thanks to you also for watching up front tonight.